Hey everybody, and welcome to today's live stream. In today's live stream we are going to design a website in Adobe XD. But before we get started, let me say hi to everybody in the chat. Thank you so much for joining me today on this live stream. Just a quick side note before we get started, if I accidentally go away for a bit, don't mind me too much because I'm expecting a delivery, so it sort of came up into this time, but still we have to do the live stream as promised. So before we get started, make sure to check out my digital design products, my courses, and private access to the Facebook group, and all of the practice files for my YouTube tutorials and all of these live streams on my website, which is alexondesign.co. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is Alex on Design, and if you're watching it there, make sure to hit the subscribe and let me know in the chat what you are doing and where you are located in the world today. Hit me up on Behance, which is Web Donut. Make sure to check it out there, which is sort of my business page. And before we get started, because we are doing the website design, if you want to check the biggest Inception design system, which is the biggest design system for Adobe XD ever created of its kind, make sure to check it out and head on over to inceptiondesignsystem.co. We are not going to be using Inception Design System in today's design, but nevertheless you can check it out, and you can check out my YouTube channel where I have the free course for it, and also have a few live streams what I did previously all about it, how to use it in your website design process. But make sure to check out all of it which I just mentioned on alexondesign.co. Let me check the chat. Hi Jerry, hi Dima, nice to have you with me today. Thank you so much for joining me, and let's get started. Let me fire up the prototype really quickly so I can show you what we are going to be working on today. So let me get started. So here is the prototype we are going to be working on today. As you can see, it's just a video section, and I can click right here. This text is going to jump up and it's going to highlight that this particular image has been selected, this particular slide, and we have the hover effect on our button. You can see the video in the background, and when I click right here, you can see that it goes to this video and it's going to start playing in the background, and you can switch between them. And one cool thing about it, we're going to utilize these masks for the text as well. One cool thing about it, if I leave my mouse right here, you can see that it's going to transition immediately to the next slide, like so, when the video actually finishes. So let's leave this one in place. I'm not going to touch anything. You can see where the mouse pointer is. When it's actually done, and when it goes to the end of the slide, it's going to transition to the next one, and the next one is going to start. It's going to transition at the end of it back to the first one, and it's going to loop all the way around as long as you let it. And of course, as I mentioned, you can click at any point to switch between all of these different slides, so you can see how they interact, and the video is going to start at the moment when we actually click on any of these slides. So if I close this is the practice file which I provided for you guys. Hi Samani, thanks for your comment, and thanks for being here today. So as I said, you can get this practice file. Make sure to check out the link in order for you to access it if you want to use this practice file to follow along. And one quick side note, I want to show you the collection. Hopefully you're with me in a few of my previous live streams where I mentioned these collections. I'm using mostly Envato Elements and sometimes Adobe stock for these live streams, because you simply cannot find good enough free assets online, both videos and images, and in this case it's no different. So if you want to use practice files for your portfolio pieces, or to work with clients, or for whatever else which is the commercial nature, you have to license all of these items which I was using in this collection. And for these items, we're basically using this video, this logo, this video, and this video, and I just included all of these other videos because I think they are going to be cool if you implement them as well. So as I said, this is a premium collection. We were using the premium collection, so you have to license it. And as you can see, same like in the previous week's live stream, if you didn't join me, we don't have any images here, so therefore we have to use Photoshop in order for us to be able to extract images at certain frames. So if I move this out of the way for a little bit. What you can see right here in our practice file, you can see we have the Paris image, Rocky Mountains image, and Barbados image. Then we have these smaller images down at the bottom, which are basically these same images which I extracted. We're just going to use them for these particular cards. And finally, you have these videos at the bottom. So we were using them and we were extracting them using Adobe Photoshop, and let me show you how that works. So basically same story like a previous week. I open up this video in Adobe Photoshop. When you open up the video, this timeline, which is the video timeline, is going to pop at the bottom. Let me hide myself so you can see it a bit better, and you can use this blue scrubber bit to scrub to any particular point that you like, and I think I scrubbed it to roughly around here somewhere or something like that. Make sure when you do this to use a frame which is not pixelated. So if I click F a few times, click Ctrl 0 to snap it into place, you can see roughly it's not pixelated too much, maybe where his legs are because of the movement, but try to avoid this at any point. For these trees, it really doesn't matter because this is going to be the focus point and the main focus point of this particular slide. So it's really important to have a clean sort of image. So if I press F a few times, hit Ctrl 0 to snap back into place, you can simply scrub through all of your videos. And when you come to a particular point, let's say this one, you can go right here to the file, export, and quick export as PNG. Make sure to export it either to a folder or to your desktop where you are going to be able to easily access it to simply drag and drop it inside to your design. That's basically it. That's how I exported all of these for all of these 3 videos, because as I mentioned in this particular collection, we don't have any images here. Sometimes you're going to get both images and videos, so if you want you can explore those, but for these ones which I'm offering you today in this particular collection, make sure to export them if you decide to use them, and once again and finally make sure to license them if you're using them for any kind of commercial work. So once again, hey everybody in the chat, and let's now go ahead and get started. So first things first, let me quickly lower down the opacity of these to maybe 6 so you guys can see them much more easily. And what I did is selected my artboard, click right here and lowered this down to 6, because if I go up to 100% you can clearly see how it looks like and you guys won't be able to tell what I'm doing. So let's go back to 6, there we go, so you can be able to see it a bit better. So you can see right here in this practice file, it's super minimal and simple, and the only thing we have basically are these 2 blue colors, and I forgot to add white color, but we're going to fix that in just a second. And we are also going to be using really super simple gradients for the top and the bottom in order for us to differentiate the top and the bottom actually. Then we have Proxima Nova 80 and 20, and you can find it on Adobe fonts, and I think it's available on Google fonts, but it's certainly available on Adobe fonts. Images, and I already mentioned, we have this logo and we have these social media icons which are going to go at the bottom. That's basically it. That's all you need for this particular website. So before we get started, actually let me drag a rectangle. So let's go 1920 by 1080. There we go. Make sure to position it in place, get rid of this border color right here. And what I'm going to do, instead of fill, I'm going to click on it. Let me hide myself so you can see a bit better. I'm actually going to use a gradient. So let's go with linear gradient. And for this one, I'm going to go all the way to white. For this one, let's not go full black, but let's go roughly around here. For the white, I'm going to get rid of it completely. And for the black, let's lower it down to maybe something like this, so maybe 60%, something like that. So let's go with that. There we go. So now I can go to my layers panel and call this, let's say, I don't know, bottom gradient, and hit Ctrl D, and let's call this one top gradient. There we go. And let's try to rotate it like this and see if the gradient has kept its capabilities. It did. So if I click right here, you can see that the dark point is all the way up to here, and maybe we can lower it down even more. Make sure to avoid to be at 0. And what you can also do is click right here to drag it all the way to the top, something like this. And let's do the same for the bottom one. So let's select our white color. So let's select the bottom gradient, click right here, select the white color, there we go. and move it all the way down to here. So now that we've done that, we have these two sections where we can actually place the white text, because as you saw, the majority of this design is white text, and we want to make sure that we don't have some sort of weird issues with the white text on top of any of our backgrounds. So before I move on, I actually want to hide these two, and what we can do is actually put them in a group, hit Ctrl G, call them gradients, and at any point you can go back to them and simply adjust the way they look. What I want to do is actually drag in my images, so let's go with Paris. I purposely created it as a component so you guys can use it as well. So what we need to do is hide it from here really quickly, so we can drag and drop another one, and it's not going to actually replace it. Now this one is a bit weird, you can see how it looks like. So if I snap it in the center and in the center again, because of these black bars, I purposely extended it a bit to the top. So that's just how the video came in, and I'm going to drag and drop in my Barbados image, because that's going to be the first one and the main one, and that's going to be the opening one. So let's unhide all of these other ones and place the gradients on top, unhide them, and hit Control or Command Enter to go into a quick preview. And now you can see these gradients on top and the bottom, helping us sort of distinguish the white text. So let's get started with the logo. I'm going to drag and drop it in place. So here we go, and I'm just going to see if it works. It does, that's great, because it didn't replace any sort of component which was there at the first place. And I'm going to position it roughly around here, and let's see what we can do here for the positioning, maybe 40 pixels from the top. So let's see there, 34, 40, there we go. And now I'm going to simply include some navigational links right here. So let me see what I did here. So if I select my artboard, you can see, if I hide myself really quickly, that the gutter width is 60, and I'm going to use the same gutter width for the spacing between our text, which is some sort of a nice hack if you want to have all of your items positioned correctly. So let's go right here, click T, use the text tool, and type in destinations. There we go, and I'm going to hit Proxima Nova 20, hit Ctrl G to position it in a group, to put it in a group, and call this nav items, for example. There we go, and I'm going to include a stack, and let's click this to go inside, hit Ctrl D to duplicate it, and I'm going to type in experiences. There we go, and now select the folder, and from here type in 60. Was it? Let's check once again. Yeah, 60 for the gutter width. So there we go, we typed in 60, and this is how it came up, and immediately you can position it right to here. So hit Ctrl D to duplicate it and put in the next one, which is cultures. There we go, Ctrl D one more time, which is accommodation. Like this, Ctrl D one more time. This is going to be local stories, because this website can be some sort of a travel blog, for example, something like that, about us. And finally, contact is going to be last. There we go. And what I'm going to do now is simply position them right here, line them up to the grid. You can see the grid line right here. And once again, make sure that these two are positioned centrally, like so. There we go. Ctrl G to put them in a group, call this nav. There we go. And now I can start creating this text. Let me just see if I got rid of the button. I did, because what I like to do with these practice files is always give you guys the option to create anything that you actually want. So I didn't left the component for the button purposely, because I wanted to show you how to create it. Obviously, it's going to be super simple to do. So to do that, I'm going to simply use the rectangle, and let's switch back to our layers panel, call it BT and BG. There we go. And I'm going to make sure that this main color has been selected. And for the button itself, what we can do is position it to be 80 for the height, something like that. Hit T, place it in the center, and type in read full story. And I purposely didn't do this. You can see that this is regular right here if I hover. So what I'm going to do right here is include this to be bold instead of regular. like so, and then click right here and select it and position it just a bit down so I can show you guys how to do this and not give you every single thing on plate. So let's see, for this maybe I can position it to be, yeah, actually this is good. So let's hit Ctrl G and call it main btn, hit Ctrl K to turn it into a component, or you can click right here. And then what I'm going to do is simply create my hover state. And with the hover state selected, select the background color and change it to hover, which I conveniently named like so. So now that that's completed, switch back to the default state, and now we have a button which is going to work well with all of our components and all of our component states. So hit T right here, and I'm going to type in beauty of Barbados. And before I move on, let me switch it to 80. There we go. Position it right here and align it. And I'm going to type in the second line from our eyes. And actually what we can do right here is right click, edit, and just make sure that the text, we cannot do that right here. Okay, so I'm going to select it here and make sure it's left aligned just so that we can place it right here. Hit Ctrl and D to duplicate it, turn it back into 20, and I'm going to extend this one so I can type in my text like so. And you can pause the video later if you want, and you can position your own text. Actually, you can do whatever you want with it and you can position it however you want, but I'm just going to leave it right here, and it's some sort of a basic blurb about the text itself. And what we can do at this point is make sure that this is 40 as well, not 42 but 40. And let's see, this is 42, so I'm going to select these two, holding shift, make sure it's at 40. There we go. And I'm going to hit Ctrl G to duplicate all of it. Make sure to position this on top because it's going to be title. And I'm actually going to, let's do it the other way. I'm going to ungroup it, and I'm going to group this and call it text 1. There we go. Hit Ctrl D. This is going to be our text 2. Ctrl D one more time. This is going to be our text 3, because we are going to have 3 different slides after all, and I want to have 3 different texts. So what we can do at this point is select now all of them, hit Ctrl G and call this text content, whatever you want to name it, whatever you want to do. So there we go. Let me know if the music is too loud. I'm curious to know. But at this point, I'm going to hide text number 1 and text number 3 and work on text number 2. So at this point, what I can do is select, just to save ourselves a bit of time, Rocky Mountains Inspiration Tour. Rocky Mountains are actually an awesome place to see in Canada. So let's select this second text, put it right here. Famous. Let's see, maybe we can cut it off right here. And of course you can use this one if I hide it. So it's called fixed size, and you can click on it and simply extend it to here if you want to, just to be a bit more precise. And actually let's do it for all of them. So if I hide text number 2, select text number 1, click right here and make sure to extend it to roughly around here, because it really doesn't matter, but I want to make sure I'm a bit more precise with it. And finally, let's work on text number 3, which in this case is walking tour of Paris. Tour through Paris, actually. And select this text. There we go. Could not be something like this. Select it, cut it off at this point. So what I'm doing is cutting it off at this grid line. So I'm precise, and I'm still keeping the distance of 40 between my text, my H1, my H2, and my button at the bottom. So what I'm going to do at this point is unhide all of them, use my rectangle, and create a rectangle roughly around here, because all of them are going to actually transition up and down. And let's make sure to position it roughly around here, and we can lower down the opacity just to be sure. So we can position it to be here and maybe here. It really doesn't matter because this is going to be our mask. And just pay attention, I'm going slightly outside of this line, just slightly. You don't have to be too precise with it. And I'm going to call it mask. There we Go. And you can lower down the opacity even more if you want to, but it doesn't matter. It's going to hide the mask either way. Select it, select the last text, hit Shift Control M or Shift Command M if you're on a Mac, and call it mask. There we go. What I'm going to do at this point is select 2, 3, hold my Shift key and move them out of the way, like so, until they snap. There we go, and maybe 10 down just for the good measure, and position this one down until it snaps. There we go, and 10 down, so I know I'm keeping my same distance between all of my text. This really doesn't matter, and you can do it however you want, but I just like to do it this way. Now what we're going to do is maybe position those cards, or maybe use the travel time or something like that. So let's actually do that. I'm going to hit T right here, type in travel time. Actually, no, let me select text because I have that original copyright sign in. So I'm going to deselect it, select this one, which is 20. There we go. Double click, paste in my original text. So I have this original copyright sign, and you can simply type into Google original copyright, and you can select this sign because you cannot actually type it in Adobe XD or any software for that matter, as I am aware of. So hit Shift 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I hold my Alt key, you can see we are 40 pixels from the top. And now we can actually drag and drop all of these social media icons in. So you can select them from here and simply drag and drop them inside. And what I can do is select all of them, hit Ctrl G to put them in a group. I can call them social icons maybe. There we go. And let me just check what I did for the original distance. Yeah, I can put in a stack and call them at 60 maybe. And the great thing about it is, let's leave it like this, and I'm going to position them just above my gradients. There we go, social icons right here. And the great thing, as I said, about them is, let me actually move them to maybe 60. There we go. You can position them from here. So let's actually switch places, and LinkedIn put above Twitter, and you can see it's going to replace the places of these two icons but still maintain the same distance what you have put into your stack. So if you remember, I put in 60 for the distance here, and when I simply replace them, it replaced them there. What you can also do is click and drag right here, but sometimes it can get messy, it can go out of the way like this, and I don't really want that. So what I can do is simply replace them right here. It's going to keep the same spacing, same distances, and the same alignment as I put in originally. So now what we can do is start working on our cards, because if you might remember, we have these 3 cards for these 3 slides right here. So let's start working on the first card, and I have them right here. So let's see, story number 1 image, drag and drop it into place. There we go. And I'm going to place it 40 from the bottom like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create another rectangle right here on top, and it's just going to be an indicator of sorts that's going to show that this particular slide has been selected actually. And what we can do is put in maybe 10 for the height. There we go. Select these two, click right here to place it at the bottom, and I'm going to actually select it, use the blue color, which is our main color. There we go. And I'm going to call it indicator. There we go, like so. And what we can do is just group them and call it slide 1. And I'm going to place them right here just above our gradients once again. And inside of the slide 1, I'm going to type in, so use T, and I'm going to type in beauty of Barbados. There we go. And of course, this is huge, so let's lower it down to 20. And what we can do at this stage is make sure that this is, let's say, 20 from this one, like so. 20 and 20, like this. And in the next slide, we are going to move them down actually a little bit, but nevertheless, we still have this. So this is our slide 1. And what we can do is simply position it. So we will have 4 columns here. Actually, no, we can have 3 columns. like so. So we have three columns for this content right here, and once again this is aligned here. And what you can also do is select this, and make sure this is in the center, because it just bugs me to see these 2 or 3 pixels. It's not really all that important, but still I have to do it because I'm really stickler for these things. So I'm going to group this slide by hitting Ctrl G, and I'm going to call this group slides, like so. And inside of these slides, I'm going to include a stack. You already know the drill. So hit Control D, Control D. So this is going to be slide number 2. This is going to be slide number 3. And I'm going to have the same distance of 60. And if I zoom in a little bit, you can see that it covered these 3 columns perfectly. And inside of this second one, I'm going to type in Rocky Mountains, so just a shorter title than it is in the main title, and you can also expand the main title to learn more, obviously. And when you click read the full story, it's going to take you to the story entirely in its entirety. So for this one, what we're going to do is lower down the indicator to 0 by hitting 0 on your keyboard 2 times. And what we can do is maybe position it 10 or 20. Yeah, let's go with 10 from this bottom edge. There we go. And you can simply align it because this was 10, as you can see. So when I lower it down, click right here and come right here to position it to line up with the indicator. If I bring it back, you can see what I mean. And basically the whole point here is for these to jump when they are actually selected. So when you click on this slide, the text is actually going to jump a bit to the top, just to give an indication that this has been selected, because this is story number 2. Let's click and drag. It's going to replace it conveniently, and click right here, story number 3. There we go. So we have all of our slides in place. Let's check. So indicator, indicator, and indicator, these 2 have been lowered down to 0, and we have this one. So now only thing which is left for us to do is to position this text a bit better. So I'm going to hover right here where the bottom of our logo is. Using rectangle tool, I'm going to drag in right here, and I'm going to hit it and the text selected, and I'm going to place it right here in the center like so. So if I select the text, because we have the mask, you can see that the outline of the text field is actually covered by that mask. But if we didn't have that mask, it's going to go all the way down to the bottom where the text is. But because we have the mask, it's going to contain that in the center. Get rid of this rectangle because we don't need it anymore. And let's quickly hide now our layout. So if I hide my layout right here, you can see how that looks like. So what I'm going to do at this stage is actually bring in my gradients a bit, because I think that they are not visible enough at this point. So I'm going to click on my top gradient. There we go. Click right here on the color itself. And what we can do is maybe drag this down a bit and click on the black, and maybe we can even bring it a bit more, and you can see what it does for the image. And depending of the contrast and what you want to achieve right here, and maybe I can even bring it to full black right around here. There we go. And maybe we can extend it just a bit more. I'm not really a big fan of it, so let's click and drag this a bit up. So let's stick with, let's say, 70%. I think that's good. And for this bottom one, there is really no problem here. As you can see, everything is visible nicely. I just don't like how this looks like, but we will have to bear with it. So if I select my white color, yeah, it's 0. So if I switch it all the way to black, yeah, I think this works much better. So what I did right here is select the top gradient, click on it, and have both colors to be the same. So you can simply hit Ctrl C to copy this hex code right here. Then click on this one, which was white, hit Ctrl V, press enter to have the same color, but just extend it a bit down to cover it right here. And I'm going to actually do the same thing. So what we can do is click on the bottom one, click on the color, click on the black, have the same color, click right here, have the same color. There we go. And now it looks much more coherent, and you can even extend this a bit if you want to. So instead of having black and white, have the black on all color slots, so both top and bottom, and just play around with the settings here. And one last thing which we want to check is how all of these other images look like. So we have Barbados, it looks fine. This works fine. And finally, this works fine either way because she is in the center. I have tried to find another one which was right here, but I failed. So we are going to keep it right here. So there we go. Those are our images. And what we are going to do next is obviously include videos. So to include videos, what we need right here is we will include video instead of this image. So these images were just placeholders and I want to include them here. And finally, I'm going to include all three videos and then put masks on them because I want to be able to hide the videos and just introduce a bit of motion. And if I show you the original example, let me bring it into screen right here. You can see I went even darker right here. So when I click, you can see this motion going from right to left. Click over on this one, you can see, so this is the mask and this is what I'm talking about. So to do that, I'm going to select my Barbados and hide gradients because I don't want it to go into gradients. Select my Barbados, drag and drop it inside. There we go. And now I'm going to actually hide it from here. Select my Rocky Mountains and videos are right here at the bottom. Drag and drop it in place. There we go. And I'm going to also hide it. And finally Paris. Select it, drag and drop it into place. There we go. And I'm going to unhide these. And now what we need is to unhide the gradients. There we go. And now for this first one, you can select your video. Let me hide myself. Go right here. And then you can select the same thumbnail, which was this image, which I showed you right here. And this is why these images are used. So what you can do is select it from here. Click on this thumbnail. It's going to open up the destination on your computer and just simply locate that image which we were using. So it's this one. So you can see when I click right here, it's going to start from afar. It's 30 seconds long, so I think it's way too long. So something like this maybe. So from 14 seconds maybe. Let's see. Actually, no, let's go all the way up to 14 seconds. So we are going to crop it there. So click this icon where it says trim, and I'm going to go to the 14th second, like so. So it's going to go from here to here. Click OK. There we go. We have this image starting, and we have to do that for all of these other videos. So hide it. And for Rocky Mountains, I'm going to click right here. Let's see where it starts. There we go, I'm fine with it. So the only thing which we are going to do is select that image from here. Click right here. It is going to change a bit. So let me hide it and check once again. Rocky Mountains. Yeah, it's actually this image. So there we go. It's good. And finally, let's do that for the video number 3. Okay, so selected, hide this one, there we go. Select video number 3, open it up, and here we have a 11-second video. And let me find the Paris image which we were using. There we go, fine. So it's the same image as this one. It doesn't matter where it starts, it just matters that it shows this particular image. So now that we have all of them, what I'm going to do is check the chat. So thank you guys for being here today with me. I really appreciate you being here, and let me know down in the chat if you have any questions for this particular live stream. We are 36 minutes in already, and as I mentioned, there is a chance that somebody from the delivery service is going to call me during this live stream because I'm expecting a delivery. So if I'm gone at any point, excuse that. I'm just going to fade out and then come back and work on this a bit more. So let's now go back to it. So I'm going to start with the rectangles. So I'm going to select my Barbados and drag in a rectangle and call this, give it a dimensions of 1920 by 1080. I'm going to position it here, then here, get rid of the border, and then make 2 more copies. I'm going to call this one mask, hit Ctrl C to select the text, Ctrl V, Ctrl V, there we go. And now I'm going to place each of them on top of each video, like so. And select my mask, select my Barbados video. And I'm actually going to go ahead and extend my mask in each direction like this. So it's actually going to be 248. So let's try to copy that. So 248, there we go. Make sure it's in the center. Select this one, 248, like so, because I want to be able to show that motion, and I want to be able to, let's select this first one so you can see it. So when I select it, because it's a bit wider than the artboard, when I click to drag it to here, I want to be able to have this space, so it's actually inside of the artboard still, but it's actually removed from the original design. So select the mask, select the video, hit Shift Control M, and I'm going to call this one Barbados, just so I know what it is. Shift Control M for this one, and I'm going to call this one Rocky Mountains. And finally Shift Control M for this one, and I'm going to call it Paris. There we go. And now what you can do is put these in a group if you want to, or you can simply leave them like so. And for my particular case, I just left them like this. So what we need at this point, because for each of them, we are going to have different components and component states. So let me just quickly organize these a bit better. So nav is going to go to the top, text is going to go below it. And then I can put these social icons, okay, slides, gradients, and now that's fine. So select all of it, hit Ctrl G to group them, to put them in a group, because as I mentioned, I want to keep the ability to move my masks left and right without them going outside to the pasteboard. That's why this is important. And I want to call this travel. Sorry, right here, travel. Blog website, because this is our website, and hit Ctrl K. Now that we have our default state, which is the Barbados state, I want to create 2 more states, which are Rocky Mountains and walking through Paris. So click right here, new state, and for this one I'm going to call it, let's see what I did right here, yeah, Rocky Mountains. There we go. And from here, not from the first one, but from the second one, click on the plus and call this one Paris. Now go back to the default state. Everything is set. Switch to the Rocky Mountains. And the first thing which we are going to do is get rid of this text. So click right here and make sure to position the text number 3 where the text number 2 was until it snaps. And select the text number 2, positioning in place of text number 1. So go Shift and click all the way until it snaps like this. And now that that's done, move the text number 1 all the way to here. Whoa, let's bring it back a bit like this. So make sure we still retain that pixel distance just for the sake of continuity. And now, because we are in a second one, what we are going to do is select this one and slide it until it meets right here. Select this indicator 0 2 times so we can hide it. And now in slide number 2, let's move this up a bit, bring this back, and then simply move it 20. So we are 20 on each side. There we go. And now if I select this, switch back, select this, you can see we are 20 from here and we are 20 from here. So that's the whole point of these, is to switch between them. Now select your video on the Rocky Mountains, select the Barbados video, select the mask, and simply move your mouse out of the way all the way to here. Click outside and it's going to show the second video. So that's the whole point with these masks, and we want to be able to show them at any given point. My camera just died for some reason, so let me switch and try to fix it for a second. There we go, it should be back. I don't know what happened there, but it doesn't really matter. So let's move on. So if I select my component, as you might remember, we are on the Rocky Mountains, and Rocky Mountains have been selected, text has been selected, video has been selected. Let's switch to Paris, and from here, actually, no, let's delete this one because we made some changes to the Rocky Mountains. And now click the new one, click Paris, because we want to retain these changes and not do the work all over again. So first things first, let's switch the text, and I'm going to use the text number 3, move it into place of text number 2. There we go, and simply select these two and position them out of the way and still retain that same distance of 10, like this. So I have the same animation between all of my states. Finally, what I'm going to do right here is select this one, move it out, select the indicator, click right here, and make sure this is 20. There we go, 20 from here, 20 from here, and make sure this is lowered down, this is lowered down, and you can of course play around with some gradients on these slides even further to accentuate this transition even further if you want to. And finally, for the mask, select the mask inside of the Rocky Mountains, click and drag to the left. There we go. And it's important to have the same positioning of your slides and of your masks. So for example, you don't want to have one mask in one slide going to the left and in the other slide going to the right. You want to have the same effect throughout your design and throughout your artboard. And now finally, when that is completed, the only thing which is left for us to do really is to go back to each video, to each slide. So I'm now at the default state. I want to select Barbados and then go inside, and I want to select play automatically, and I don't want it to loop. So you can play automatically and you can click right here and deselect the loop if it was selected for any reason. Let me hide myself so you can see it a bit better. So it's this option right here at the bottom. Because I don't want it to loop, I want it to stay in this position. So now it's going to start playing automatically. So if I hit preview, Control Enter on this one, so hover works, but the video doesn't for some reason. So let's try that one more time. Default state, Barbados. Let's select the video, play on tab, play automatically. So if I hit Control Enter one more time, it still doesn't work for some reason. So what I can do at this point is perhaps ungroup this. Ungroup component, so I'm just left with a video, and I can do the same for these. So ungroup component and ungroup component here, because that was maybe what's holding us back. No playback, no playback, play automatically. Let's go with no playback, play automatically, and let's try that one more time. So now it works. And when it reaches the end of the video at that 14-second mark, it's actually going to stop, because we have to tell it what to do at the end of playback, and we want to tell it to go to the next slide. So how do we do that? Actually, let's deal with that in just a second. Let's do the same for all of these other ones. So let's click Rocky Mountains and do the same here. So here, because I ungrouped the components in the main component, if I select Barbados, no playback. If I select Rocky Mountains, no playback. If I select Paris, no playback. So select Rocky Mountains instead of no playback, use play automatically. So now if I hit Control Enter to preview this one, you can see that the video starts playing immediately. And what we're going to do is switch to Paris state, there we go, and do the same one more time. So open all of these up and make sure to check no playback, no playback, and finally Paris, I'm going to go play automatically. There we go. So if we hit Control Enter to preview this one, you can see that the video starts playing immediately and we are on this state, and hover effect works as it should. Finally, what we need is to connect all of these. So I'm going to switch to the prototype mode right here. And from here, I'm going to actually try to do this way, but I don't think it's going to work. So if I select this one, click on it, use auto animate, choose a state, it's going to work. So let's use Rocky Mountains. And what we can do is use maybe snap for this one. So let me see what I did in my original example. Yeah, I think I use snap, and let's use 2 seconds so that we have enough time for these masks to show and to go out of the way. And finally, let's do the same for this one. So when I click, and we can choose Paris for the state. So this one was for the Rocky Mountains, this one was for the Paris, and you can see we have 2 seconds. So what I always recommend to you to do is not to confuse yourself, because as soon as you start adding more and more of these slides and pages, you will have more of these interactive spots in your design. So make sure to finish one and then move on to the other one. So as you can see right here, I'm not working with end of playback trigger yet, because I want to make sure that I covered all of these. So in this one, when we select Beauty of Barbados and click on it, we will go to the snap, but we want to go to the default state. We are at the Rocky Mountain state at this point. So when I select Paris, click on it, we want to go to Paris. Oh God, how I want to go to Paris. So let's go with Beauty of Barbados in the Paris one and go to the default state. Here will go to the Rocky Mountains. There we go. It's going to retain the same settings as you saw. So let's now go ahead and test it out. So hit Control Enter to preview what we did. And let me hide myself so you can see it a bit better. So this works, video works. When I click right here, you can see how this works. And we used snap, so the text is going to snap, and you can see how all of this works. But I don't think that this one, I don't actually hate it. I think it's good, because in the original one I didn't use fade, I used the disappearing method immediately, which I'm going to show you in just a second. So instead of this fade, what I actually did between the states is I actually just went right here. So here we are, Barbados. So slide number 1, instead of clicking on it and then lower down the opacity to 0, I just hit it here. But I really like this effect. I think it sells the story even more. So if we preview it one more time, I'm going to show you the difference between it and my original example. So when I click right here, you can see how it works. And let's actually, yeah, so I like how it looks like. And if I quickly show you my original example right here, so when I click, you can see that basically it sort of disappears immediately. So I like this one better. And once again, here we are at the default state, and let's go ahead and finish up this design and this effect. Let me check the chat. Good evening, Alex, says Abdullah. Hi, Abdullah. Nice to see you here and nice to have you guys with me. We are 49 minutes in, so I think we are going to be good to go with 1 hour mark so far. So what we can do at this point is we are at the default state. So I'm going to open up my video, select it, and then here we have the time trigger. What we are going to do is click on this plus, and instead of tap, use end of playback. Choose a destination, Rocky Mountains, snap 2 seconds. So before we move on any further, let's quickly test it out, because this is quite new feature. So when the video ends, it's going to transition to that next state, which is the Rocky Mountains. So let's check it out if it works. There we go, it works. So when the video ends, it's going to start playing immediately on this state. And of course, this still works, so we can switch between them at any given point if we want to. I think that works fine. So let's switch back. We are at the default state, that's fine. Switch to the Rocky Mountains. Select the Rocky Mountains video right here. Just make sure to ungroup this component as I showed you previously in order for this to work without any issues. So just click on the plus, end of playback. It's going to remember what you have selected previously, and we want to go to Paris. Once again, I really want to go to Paris. So just make sure to tell it to go to one direction. So if you want to go from Barbados to Rocky Mountains to Paris, make sure to tell it to go to this direction and not to go the other way around. So not go between Beauty of Barbados and Paris, and then from Paris to Rocky Mountains, from Rocky Mountains back to Barbados. So just make sure to go to one direction and then go back another direction manually, or if you're using end of playback, because you cannot go two different directions, make sure to keep scrolling and to go into one direction. So from Barbados to mountains, from mountains to Paris, and from Paris back to Barbados, and it's going to go into loop forever. So Now that we've done that, we can switch to Paris, open up the Paris, select our video, click on the plus, and then end of playback and choose the state of default state, which is just what I just mentioned. So we will go from Barbados to mountains to Paris, back to Barbados, and all the way around to loop. So let's quickly test out what we have created so far. So video works. Let's do one cycle. So it's going to be quite boring for you to sit through this, but this is basically the part of the job. You have to preview what you have created and you have to be sure that it actually works. So text works, transition works, end of playback works, Beauty Barbados, Rocky Mountains, that works, that's fine. Transition is nice. Video is going to end about now and it's going to transition to Paris. Now we have this Paris video, everything works fine, text works fine, everything looks good. And now finally what we want is to see if it's going to transition back to Barbados. So let's see how that works. It works fine. And once again, video is going to keep playing. And the great thing is, if you don't want to wait for this and you always have to give your users this option, you can simply click on any of these and the hover effect works right here. You will notice a slight delay, so I cannot hover straight away. I have to wait for a second until the video starts playing. That's just a XD thing. That's how it works at the moment and you cannot really do anything about it. But basically, this is just there to show to your clients and to your developers and your design teammates how your designs are going to look like. So there we go, we have finished this design. I really hope you liked it and I really hope I will be able to go to Paris quite soon. So thank you so much guys for being here with me. Once again, my camera broke off, so let me try to fix it. There we go. I have this how is it called, the power cord plugged into my camera, so at any point it just gives up and it just decides to quit. So nice to be with you today. Nice to be with you, Abdullah, as well. Thank you so much to everybody who was watching today. And for the end, once again, if you want to check out my design products, my courses, my private Facebook group, and all of these practice files, including this one, make sure to join my membership or to check out my website for what I just mentioned, which is alexondesign.co. Make sure to head on over to my YouTube channel and check it out there. There is a huge surprise coming to at this Wednesday, hopefully if all goes good. So I didn't want to mention anything just until now. So make sure to check it out. It's Alex on Design there. If you want to head on over to Behance, make sure to follow me there, which is Web Donut, which is sort of my business page. And finally, for the end, as always, if you want, you can check out my Inception Design System at inceptiondesignsystem.co, which is the biggest design system of its kind for Adobe XD ever created. Once again, thank you so much for being here with me. We are just at 55 minutes, so we just missed 1 hour spot, but I think this live stream went quite well. Hopefully you guys do too, and hopefully you liked what you saw in today's live stream. And that's going to be it for me today. Thank you so much once again, and until next time, take care.